Hi everyone, I'm Nick Olivo, and today we're going to take a look at one of D&D's most iconic villains, Strahd von Zarovich. As the master of Castle Ravenloft, Strahd has been tormenting adventuring parties since 1983, and he's still going strong in 5th edition, as seen just by the sheer number of Curse of Strahd campaigns running on startplaying.games. In this video, we're going to automate some of Strahd's powers and abilities to help make gameplay faster. Now, while it's no spoiler that Strahd is a vampire, I will be showing his stat block as we automate things, so if you're a player, consider yourself warned, and maybe send your DM this way. Also, we will be using mods, so a pro account is required to do what I'm about to show you. And specifically, what we're going to see is how to have a button automatically pop up in chat, reminding you to apply Strahd's Regeneration ability if he didn't take Radiant or Holy Water damage. And so we'll actually be able to just click a button and have that healing automatically applied to his token. We'll also have the ability to automate Strahd's lair actions so that things can neatly be displayed in chat, alerting your players to what's going on with the lair. And also we'll see how to have Strahd automatically spawn in minions for those fun random encounters as Strahd antagonizes your players throughout the campaign. Before we dive in, I'd just like to thank Roll20 for sponsoring this video. So let's start out by identifying which mods we're going to be using here. So we'll start out with the Metascript Toolbox. This one comes to us from the Metamancer himself, Timoth, and I'm not going to go through what each of the mods will be used for right now. We'll do that when we actually get to the actual automation that we're going to create, but we'll use the Metascript Toolbox. We're also going to use Token Mod, which comes to us from the Aaron. We're going to use Spawn Default Token from David M, Script Cards from Kurt Jagers, and lastly, we're also going to use the OnMyTurn script, which is another one of the errands. This one isn't part of the Roll20 mod library, so I will include it as a link in the video description where you can get it and install it. And if you're not familiar with how to install mods, I'll pop a card up in the top right there that you can use to watch a video to see how to do that. Alright, so let's go back to our game, and here's Strahd's stat block, and as you can see, there's a whole lot going on in here. He's got special abilities, he's got legendary actions, he's got spells, and we want to try and simplify as much of this as possible so that at game time things just go really smoothly. And so the first thing that I'm going to automate is Strahd's Regeneration capability. At the start of each of his turns, Strahd regains 20 hit points so long as he has at least 1 hit point and he isn't in running water or sunlight. But this trait doesn't function if he takes radiant damage or damage from holy water. So the two mods that we'll use to make this happen are Token Mod and OnMyTurn. So I've just pulled up my trusty Notepad++ window here, and the Token Mod command for this is going to look like this, where we say Token Mod set bar1 value plus 20 exclamation point. So what this means is for whatever token is selected, we are going to take the bar1 value and we are going to increase it by 20. So the bar1 value is Strahd's HP, so we're going to increase that by 20. What the exclamation mark means is that we will not exceed his maximum hit points. So if I drop his HP down to say 100, and then I run this command, you'll see, okay, we jumped up to 120. If I run it again, 140. Now he's only got 4 hit points left. If I run it a third time, it goes up to 144. It does not go up to 160. So this is good because we don't want Strahd to overheal. He's a hard enough villain as it is. So now what we're going to do is copy this command, and we're going to go to Strahd's character sheet, and we're going to go to the Attributes and Abilities section. And what you're going to do is click Add to create a new ability, and then you're going to name that ability Regenerate, like what I've done right here. And then just paste in the Token Mod command into the text box here and click the checkmark button. So you should have an attribute called Regenerate, and then check its Show as Token action box. And what that's going to do is when you have Strahd's token highlighted, you'll have this Regenerate button. So you can just click on that. And so if we had lost some hit points here and we click Regenerate, you see he gets 20 hit points back. Okay, so this is cool. But now we're also going to use OnMyTurn. And what OnMyTurn does is it fires a particular action when your character's turn comes up in initiative order. And you'll see here I've added another ability to Strahd called OnMyTurn. And what that does is whispers a message to me saying that if he didn't take radiant or holy water damage, click the regenerate button. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to open up my turn order window here, and I'm going to add Strahd to the initiative order. So I've got a button for his initiative right here. Okay. And now we see when Strahd's turn comes up, he's got this message here that says if he didn't take radiant or holy water damage, click the regenerate button. So I'm actually taking that regenerate button that we have here, and I'm also putting it right in chat so that I can just click that and regenerate. And let's go ahead and do that. And again, we see we don't overheal. We cap out at Strahd's maximum hit points. So what we're doing is we're creating that button with this syntax right here. So regenerate, that's the text on the button. And then this, the parentheses tilde Strahd von Zarovich, that's saying we're looking at an ability on Strahd's character sheet, and the ability we're looking for is called Regenerate. So it's this one right here. So effectively, this is creating a button in chat that will call this ability right here. So now we can access the Regenerate functionality from Strahd's token with this bar, or we can hit it from the chat when his turn comes up. I like this approach personally because it reminds me that he has that ability on his turn, and that way I don't forget to do it. Okay, so that takes care of the regeneration capabilities. The next thing that I want to talk about is Strahd's lair actions. And if we scroll down here, we can see that a whole bunch of lair actions are listed out in the bio section of his character sheet. So Strahd can pass through solid walls, doors, and ceilings as if they weren't there. He can target doors and windows and open or close them. He can summon the angry spirit of someone who has died in the castle and makes a single attack against one of your party. And then also Strahd can try and rip away a character's shadow and have it attack them. So these are his lair actions that we want to automate. Now, I actually did an entire video that shows how to automate lair actions in Roll20. So I'm going to go kind of quick through this section. And if you want a more detailed breakdown of what's going on, you can check out that other video, which I'll put a card to up in the top right now. But essentially what we're going to do is create a separate character sheet for Strahd's lair. And so I've done that right here. It's just an NPC character sheet. I'm going to drag it onto the battlefield here, and I gave it this nice little Castle Ravenloft token. But basically what we're going to do is open this character sheet up. You can see that there's nothing in it other than a handful of items on the abilities section. So let's take a look at what each of those say. And I'm going to bring that up in Notepad++ just to make it easier to read. So what I'm doing here is using one of Roll20's built-in role templates to format how this text will be displayed in chat. And so let's show you what it looks like when it's actually run. All right, so this and template traits is what makes the text show up in this little box here. The name incorporeality, that's my own name for this ability because it seems like it fits, right? Strahd can phase through walls, doors, and ceilings as if they weren't there. The source, Strahd lair action, that's the text that you see right here in gray. So that's just kind of a reminder about what this is and where it's coming from. And then the description is the actual text of the lair action ability. So now really it's just a matter of repeating this process for Strahd's other lair actions. So it's going to look like this, where we have the trait template, we give each lair action a name, specify its source, and then have the description. There's one other modification that I want to make here, and that is for this particular lair action that I'm calling Revenant, where Strahd summons the angry spirit of someone who's died in the castle. This apparition appears next to a hostile creature, makes an attack, and then disappears. And the apparition uses the statistics of a specter. So what I'm going to do is go into my compendium here. I'm going to search for a specter, and I'm going to drag that specter out onto my map. And then I'm going to open up the specter's character sheet, and you can see that the specter's attack is called Life Drain. So I'm going to click that, and this is the Life Drain attack. So this is what that apparition would do when that particular lair action fires. So what I'm going to do is go into the chat box here and press up on the keyboard. And this gives you the last command that was run, which is the life drain attack. So I'm going to Control A to select everything in here, Control C to copy it, and then in my layer action text file here, I'm going to add a new line under Revenant and paste in that bit of text that we just copied. So now, if I clear this out, grab this whole thing, and paste it into the chat, you can see that we have the layer action description and then the life drain attack. So everything happens all at once. So this is everything that I want to have for Strahd's layer actions. So now what I'll do is go back into the layer actions sheet, and I'm going to create an ability for each layer action like you see that I've done right here. And again, I'm just copying and pasting the individual layer actions into each of these abilities, making them all token actions. And now when I highlight Strahd's layer action token, I have all of those layer actions listed out, and I can choose whichever one that I want. The final ability that's here is this initiative one, and this is just adding Strahd's layer actions into the turn order window at initiative count 20. And I'm just doing that so I don't forget to use Strahd's layer actions. And again, I've got a whole video on layer actions you can check out if you're interested. So the last thing that I want to show you how to automate today is Strahd's ability to summon minions. If we look at this Vampire's Minions section, we have this Strahd Minion table. And so when Strahd shows up in a location other than his tomb or a place indicated by a Tarokka card reading, we roll a d20 and see what he has for minions in a particular encounter. So we would roll a d20, figure out what kind of monster he had, then roll additional dice to determine how many of those monsters showed up, and we want to speed that up as much as possible. So what we'll do is have this turn into a one-click operation that will automatically roll the d20 for us, determine the appropriate monster, roll the quantity of that monster, and then put all of those onto the battlefield for us. And so that's going to make prep a whole lot faster if we're building these encounters out in advance, and it's going to make gameplay a whole lot faster if we are doing this in real time during a combat. And again, just to show you what this is going to look like, you click on Strahd's token, click spawn minions, and then we say, okay, Strahd's going to summon 6 direwolves, and it brings out 6 direwolves onto the map, and then we can position those direwolves however it is that we would like. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, bringing back our trusty Notepad++ window one more time, we're going to use the script cards mod in order to make this happen. And so we're going to start out by saying !script, which tells Roll20 we're using a script card, and then 2 open curly braces and 2 closing curly braces. And everything between the curly braces is the script card itself. And so ultimately what we're going to have is output like this, where we whisper to the GM this Strahd Minions card that tells us how many of a particular monster were summoned. So to do that, we're going to start out with 2 lines like this. -- whisper GM says that we are whispering the output of the card to the GM of the game. And then -- title, Strahd Minions, that's the actual title bar text that you see right here. So now what we need to do is roll that d20 to see what creatures Strahd is bringing along with him. And so for that, we're going to do something like this, where we say -- creature 1d20. So what we're going to do is roll a d20, and we're going to store the value of that d20 in a variable called creature. And then what we're going to do is say, okay, if creature equals 1, then summon dire wolves. If it equals 16, then summon regular wolves, and so on and so forth. So to do that, we're going to use lines that look like this. And so this is a lot of text that I just pasted in, but we're going to go bit by bit. So the first thing that we have here is this -- line. This is a conditional statement, an if statement. So what it's saying is if the creature roll, if this d20 roll, is greater than or equal to 1, and the creature roll is less than or equal to 3. So if we look at our minion table here, if it's greater than or equal to 1 or less than 3, then we're going to do 1d4 plus 2 dire wolves. What we're going to do then is create another variable called quantity, and we're going to set that to 1d4 plus 2. Then this line right here, this -- line, this is the actual text output that you see over here in the card, where we say that Strahd summons the quantity, so whatever we rolled right here, direwolves. So that's just for the DM to know that this is what's happened. And then here, this last line, -- is how script cards calls other mods. And we're actually using 2 other mods to do the summoning onto the battlefield. This forSelected command is coming to us from the Metascript toolbox. What it's saying is take the selected token, and then we're going to perform another command against that token. And the command that we're performing is the spawn command from spawn default token. And what this is saying is we are going to spawn a direwolf. The quantity that we're spawning is the value that we rolled up here. We're going to place those direwolves surrounding the selected token. So we're going to have Strahd highlighted when we run this command, so the tokens will be placed surrounding him. But direwolves are large. They're not medium-sized creatures, which means their tokens are 2 squares by 2 squares. So we're also going to set the size property of the direwolf to be 2 by 2. If we omitted this parameter, then the direwolves would come in as medium-sized creatures, as 1 by 1 tokens, and that wouldn't be accurate. So this right here is going to say if we've rolled between 1 and 3, then roll 1d4 plus 2, put out this text that says Strahd has summoned direwolves, and then spawn out those direwolves. And then we end the conditional statement with this -- bracket and pipe command. And that's really the kind of the basics to this. We're just going to check to see if the creature die roll that we did here, if that d20 falls between a set of values, and if it does, then we're going to summon in that particular creature. So we're just going to repeat this process for our other monsters. So I'm just going to come down here and I'm going to add in another block of text that looks exactly the same here, where we're going to say if the creature's between 4 and 6, then we're going to do 1d6 plus 3 ghouls. And so our quantity becomes 1d6 plus 3. Strahd summons in that quantity of ghouls. And again, forSelected, spawning in ghouls, quantity of ghouls, and they're being placed around Strahd. We don't have the size parameter here because ghouls are medium creatures, so we don't need it. And then we're just going to repeat that for all the other creatures here. So I've just gone through and I've added in the other creatures into the list here. So if we roll between 10 and 12, we're going to bring in 2d4 swarms of bats. If we roll between 13 and 15, we're going to bring in vampire spawn, regular wolves, and if we roll 19 or higher, Strahd gets no minions. So again, once we've completed this, we're going to go into Strahd's character sheet. We're going to go back to the attributes and abilities section, and we're just going to create another ability called Spawn Minions, and I've just pasted in the code for the script card there, and then made it a token action. So now we click on Strahd, we click Spawn Minions, and the card displays the output, and the minions are spawned onto the board. Now, there are 2 important safety tips related to this one. First of all, in order for the spawn command to work, the page that Strahd's token is on needs to have the grid enabled. So if I come up here and we go to the main page, you'll notice I have the grid turned on and the opacity is just all the way down, so you can't see it, right? But if you have the grid off and you try to summon in creatures, it won't work. So make sure that the grid is on your map, and you can set the opacity to whatever you want. If you want your players to see the grid lines, great, raise this value. If you don't want them to see the grid lines for whatever reason, just bump the opacity all the way down to the edge here. The other important safety tip is that the images for these tokens need to be in your personal Roll20 art library. So if you run this command and you get an error saying that the image isn't there, then what you need to do is put a token for that creature onto the battlefield. So drag out another direwolf or swarm of rats like you saw in the example message there. Press Z on your keyboard to bring up the images preview. Right click on it, save image as, save it on your computer somewhere. And then what you need to do is update this creature's character sheet with the image that you just downloaded. So what I like to do is just grab the image, pull it onto the battlefield, size it properly, so down to 2 by 2 again, and then double click, set your bars and whatnot here to be whatever you want. So this is going to represent direwolf. We'll have the first one be HP, And then the second bar will be NPC AC. There we go. We're going to save our settings here and then update the default token. And now this direwolf that we have in this game is going to be using the image that we just uploaded into our own personal art library. So now the spawn command will work. And then one just final thing I'm going to throw out there is in Strahd's list of spells that he has available to him, one of those spells is Mirror Image. I love this spell. I think this is a great spell to have your bad guy play in the middle of a big fight. And I used this to great effect when I ran this campaign recently. I actually have a whole other video showing how to create a mirror image script card. So basically what you do is you'd have Strahd on the battlefield, and you could click the mirror image button right here, which would spawn out 3 mirror images of Strahd. And then when your players attack Strahd, you've got another button here that you can use to resolve whether or not the attack hits Strahd or hits one of his mirror images. So I'm going to pop a card to that as well, so you can check that out and employ that if you'd like. So there you have it. That's how you can automate some of Strahd's powers and abilities. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a like and consider subscribing. And until next time, folks, happy gaming.